Welcome to the Ancient Way.
Season 2.
Season 2.
What's your name again?
I'm James.
Oh, okay. I was just making
What's your
sure.
name? In case anybody forgot.
Maria.
All right.
You
During
know, you just never know.
That season hiatus there.
Mm-hmm.
The big gap that everybody's been
Afraid of.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like, after, we released our bonus episode like a couple of days late from our normal Tuesday drop, people were concerned.
I know it.
It's kind of funny to me.
I know it.
I appreciated it. I'm not going to lie. I was like, that's sweet.
Yeah.
People value it.
I was on the phone with one of our good friends, Christopher, and he calling him about a fence, and he was like, "Where's the episode? Where's the episode at?" It was on Tuesday. I was like, it's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. But I sincerely appreciate it.
I know. It just makes me giggle.
Yeah, Christopher listens to him. Yeah, it's good. Well, we talked about this week kind of what we were going to go over.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, but if you were going to sum it up, if you were going to sum this episode up or the intention of it, what would that be? A little bit of dreams.
Interpreting your dreams through the lens of the Lord.
Okay. What about even words like prophecy, interpreting all
just
of it,
interpretation,
right?
Interpreting your dreams, the words that you get from the Lord, for yourself, for other people,
right?
Because you and I kind of got into the conversation of I think everybody sees in the spirit.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Everybody can see. Everybody sees accurately.
Yeah.
In the spirit. What causes people to even believe that they see wrong or not correctly or whatever is the interpretation of it.
Right.
And how you're interpreting things.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest growth point.
Yeah.
For many, many, many people.
Yeah.
For all people, actually.
I like that. A couple of things, everybody sees in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll hear people say I don't see that, or I don't feel those things, or I don't experience that. I almost want to ask well, have you ever been angry before? Or have you ever been scared before? And most people, I would say that's a pretty universal thing. People have experienced, emotions like that. It's well, that is a spiritual thing. That's a feeling, a spiritual feeling you have. If you're capable of feeling those things, then you're capable of experiencing love or experiencing compassion or empathy for other people. And those are all spiritual aspects. I mean, some of them are emotions, but
I think your emotions, they point to a lot of things,
right?
Though,
Yeah.
It's funny. I was reading in Acts 2 today, just because I felt like the Lord said read Acts 2, and it's how Peter pulled. Peter was kind of talking about the Spirit had just gotten poured out, right?
Right.
And Peter quotes Joel 2 in Acts 2. And, he says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams." And to me, that's everything, the Spirit is open.
Right.
The veil was torn from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Everybody is experiencing something in the spirit realm.
Yeah.
And I think it's you're either seeing visions, you're dreaming dreams, because His Spirit is upon all of us.
Right.
Anyways, I thought that part is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's the case. And then it does come down to interpretation with pretty much anything. Are you seeing it through love? Mm-hmm. But
it's I think that's why the renewal of the mind is so important.
Yeah.
Is because your interpretation is from your filter, right? It's through the things your whole life experiences are being expressed, right? So you're taking just on like a mental level, right? Everybody is filtering things, their life experiences through past life experiences.
Yeah.
And so for people just in general, you're like, so I'm going to use this example.
Okay.
Hopefully this will paint the picture that I'm trying to convey. But say you're starting something new, right? But you feel resistance in your person, or like anxiety or stress.
Yeah.
You have to take a pause and be like, okay, well, why is my body responding this way, right? Probably because in the past there is something in your body that feels familiar. It feels like the same thing. And so your body will actually have a physical response to that. And I think interpreting things, that can be the same thing, right? So you see a picture of Donald Trump, right?
Right.
And because the experience is either you've had a really good experience with this whole like Trump movement, or it's a really sour tasting, right? So then you interpret it based on how your experience has been. And so I think the renewing of the mind is like, hey, Lord, I'm laying this thing down because it's creating a little bit of stress, or even this interpretation. I want to lay my filter down. I want you to renew it.
Right.
And I want to see it through the testimony of Jesus, which is that Revelation 19:10.
You're yielding those filters to him.
Yes.
What do you say about?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's no longer interpreting things through your past filter,
right?
Which I think most people do that accidentally. There's no ill intent on things.
Yeah.
It's just, or you've been watching somebody else, right? Because as little children, how do we learn? We learn by observing.
Yeah.
We learn by watching what other people are doing.
Absolutely.
And so if other people are interpreting it to be Donald Trump is coming back to be the next president, right? And I have a dream about Donald Trump, I then, in my experience, am just observing from other people, so I'm going to lump it in that category.
And then when that happens, it's like, oh, I have a message for the nation, or
Yeah. And so
what a great example.
I don't think it's ill intent.
No.
I think it's just we've observed other people.
Right.
And so then we're trying to make sense of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Because we want to have understanding, and I think the heart is pure. Like I really want to know what God is saying.
Yes.
But I feel unsettled in the fact that I don't fully know yet.
Yes.
And so we attach an interpretation to it, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the best gifts to have, is the ability to discern spirits or filters. Like,
totally.
What am I seeing this through? Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that light that I saw on the wall? It was blue and gold.
Yeah.
Well, right after that, the whole Ukraine stuff happened, Yeah. And then also my high school, Brownsboro, they won like the state championship in basketball. Their colors are blue and gold.
Yeah.
I guess I could have ran with that or
Totally.
something had I been, entrenched in the news or, whatever, and could have been like, oh,
had an emotional
Ukraine
tie
is
to
gonna,
something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Or just even like, I feel insignificant. And if I can attach this meaning to it, I will feel significant.
Yeah, and if God's attached to it,
yeah,
that's the ultimate significance there.
Yeah.
And acceptance.
Yeah, because you don't feel fully accepted, so
Right.
you'll interpret something to feel accepted.
Right.
And it, instead of coming from the fact of like, man, I'm already so accepted and I'm loved. Lord, thank you for that. Now show me what you actually meant by it.
Yeah. And usually, I would say the things that he gives us is usually for people around us or for us specifically. It could be some, whatever's going on in the dream. It could look like some big, incredible national thing, but it may really just be specifically for you.
Yeah. Or somebody around you.
Or somebody around you. Or just giving you intel on something, or something that you can apply to your life.
Right. Because everything is practical.
Yes. And if you think of all those other interpretations of, like we're talking about, if it's like, I have a word for the nation, it's like those things they are devoid of accountability, and it's like something outer, something outside or away from you, where you're not really a part of it, but it just puts God in the White House, or it puts God out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It made me think too of like the dream. I had a dream a while back. I was trying to find it, but it said I heard a voice as I was waking up, and the voice said this phrase to me:
Mm-hmm.
write down what you wish it would mean,
Mm-hmm.
and then write down what it actually means.
Mm.
And for me, it was so pivotal. And so I started doing that of like, okay, this is what I wish that this dream would mean.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually was like a sword that let me see a divide between like how I just wanted it to be interpreted,
Mm-hmm.
AKA like how I felt significant, like I was trying to attach some significance to it.
Yeah.
And then like what it actually meant. But the things that it actually means speaks more to destiny, speaks more to purpose than just trying to validate something. Like when you actually start having so much confidence that you are the beloved, you filter things so much more clearly.
Yeah.
Instead of just seeking, how can I interpret this so that I can get my voice out there?
Yeah.
Or how can I interpret this to where it holds meaning?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people don't have dreams about earthquakes and things that are coming.
World events, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that most of the things that are interpreted are probably they're interpreted based on other people around them because those are the circles that they are entrenched in.
Yeah. It's practical.
Yeah. But like, this is probably a little new agey now that we're talking about this, but they were talking, these scientists were talking about the collective mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to it yesterday, and I don't know if you've ever heard of like groupthink.
Yeah.
Right? So like, if you're surrounded by a group of people, everybody's mind will actually start to think in similar patterns, in similar ways.
Right. Well, remember that dream Laurel had about the big brain floating over everybody at the festival? And we were... Oh,
yeah.
That could be... Anyways, sorry, that just made me think of that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, so it's like a collective mind that people can like surrender to.
Right.
And
find identity in.
Yeah. But I think you have the ability to surrender to, in my mind, like the group mind is either the tree of knowledge of good and evil or the tree of life.
Life, yes.
Like those are the two group thinks that you can surrender to.
Yeah.
And so.
And there are branches of different ones. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, there are branches of the good and evil one anyways.
So I was just going to ask, is there anything or any dreams or experiences that you had interpreted that you have come back and been like, that wasn't it the first time?
Oh, definitely.
That you've had to grow through?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything that you can think of that you'd want to share?
I would share anything, almost, probably. But real quick, I just want to sit on that groupthink thing. That is, oh my gosh, I've got to go into this real fast. But that made me think of, because a lot of people do interpret things through that groupthink thing, but that's such a real thing. It's like ideology. People get possessed by an idea, and then when you talk to them, you're not talking to that person, you're talking to that idea.
Yeah.
And it's like for people, it feels like connection, or it feels like something to belong to or something to fight for, which everybody craves, And so.
If you think, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm just going to talk about some practical things.
Yeah.
You see that with all the divisive movements that have been going on in this country.
Yeah.
Like, it's like if you surrender to a group think from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it becomes divisive.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, it's just a thought I
had. Well,
had.
and then this is attached. I had to bring this up. So I like superheroes and stuff. I like comic books, graphic novels, some of them, right? And the artwork is incredible on a lot of them. Well, one of my favorite ones, he is the writer of like Watchmen and one of my favorite Batman comic books. His name is Alan Moore, brilliant writer. And so I was like, well, when I find people that are interesting, I like to just listen to them and see what they're about. Turns out he's like a magician or a sorcerer or something. I'm like, oh crap, you know, I didn't expect it, but I listened to him, and he's into some dark things. But apparently, on that side of the tracks, he was talking about like spelling. He's like, if you're right, he's like, when you write something in order to convince somebody of something, you're casting a spell. You're spelling words out in an attempt to change someone's mind. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But then it made me think of like, well, what do people throw over you? Or what do people throw over even like the media? You're presented, if you are an avid news watcher or you're entrenched in that, you are presented usually with a situation, and then you're presented with two options that you can believe in, one side or the other. And it's almost as if that's it. And they project it and reinforce it so much where it's like, you know, this happened. Here's this election. This country's getting bombed. Pick a side. And then people get stuck on it. People start hanging flags in their yard. People put, you know, banners and things like that. And that becomes their focus. So talk about interpretation. If that's your focus and you're constantly being reinforced through something.
But that's what you're interpreting.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is like being able to determine like even what you believe in, like the idea is being captivated or possessed by an idea. The options are out there, and it's almost as if it has been created to encapsulate people into these things, to keep them from being present and in their own life even.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a big ass spell, honestly, thrown over people. But that's what it made me think of. You're presented with, okay, here's your options. You can be in this party, you can be in this group, this tribe. If you're not, then you're in this tribe. And just like, it's divisive completely. But it keeps people distracted, even from being present. And it separates people.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. That made me think of it.
Well, it makes, TV is called TV programming, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, what are we actually being programmed to believe?
Yeah.
And I think the programming, you either have the programming of the Lord.
Yeah.
Because, even Elon Musk says we're living in a simulation.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, not really. You know what I mean? But like the world, the program of the world is definitely lesser than.
Yeah.
And it creates divisiveness and, but when you interpret things through the lens of the Lord, there's always reconciliation.
Yeah.
It is a joining of things together.
Yes.
It is life.
Right.
It's life abundantly. It's connection. It's belonging.
Yeah.
It's
I like that. Reconciliation is always available. Yeah.
I mean, he said, like, I've given you the ministry of reconciliation.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? That means that everything that you interpret should be through the lens of reconciliation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and if it's through one of those other ones, usually there is no reconciliation. Yeah. And it's very obvious,
It's very separatist.
Yeah,
and it's, and I think, like, even when you interpret your own dreams, right? I think the biggest thing that you can lay before the Lord, and I think sometimes we even dismiss some of our dreams because we're like, it was just a yucky dream.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was a pizza dream. And this is just my own opinion. So, whatever. I think that every single dream that we have, that we remember, or even not remember, to be honest, has something for us to eat in it. I think even if it's your subconscious, even if it's a demonic dream, because even what the enemy tries to sow into your life, it's food for us. Yeah. Because we're overcomers. Yeah. We're not subject to them.
Right.
We're not like at their mercy.
Absolutely.
Like, dude, we're way more powerful than that.
Yeah.
We just don't give ourselves enough credit.
No, they're scared of us.
Yeah. But that's food for us.
Yeah.
Even if it is a demonic dream.
Right.
There's something for us to get nourishment from.
Yeah.
And then you have like straight revelatory dreams where you're encountering the Lord himself or angelic beings or,
right.
Whatever. But I think the first thing is like to lay your heart on the line.
Yeah.
And be like, Lord, is this anything about my own heart?
Yeah.
And actually not navel gaze, but actually acknowledge like, oh, if this is something that I deal with, this is an insecurity that I have. And even if somebody's coming to me in the dream, right, and projecting this thing and it's causing this insecurity to come out, that means the Lord's dealing with your insecurity.
Yeah.
He's wanting to deal with the things of our heart that hold us down.
Yeah.
And I think often with dreams, we often want to put them off and we want to put them out to people like, Now, I do think I've had this happen, so I'm not saying that every single dream is like dealing with an issue of the heart. Yeah. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that should always be the first question. Yeah. Like, Lord, is this, if I'm a player in the game is what I should say. If I'm a player in the dream, there's probably something within my own person that's needing to be, that he's wanting to replace with truth. That is... If you're observing, right, you're observing a dream and you're kind of hovering over it, that's when I would say it's probably for or about the other person. Yeah. Because you're an observer. Yeah. You're not in it. Interesting. Right? So I think that it's like I think that's like a night vision. Yeah. Right? So you're observing the players. You're observing what's going down.
I do think a lot of it is about the heart.
Because the heart's what holds us back.
Yes. And
misconceptions.
I've had conversations with people about, and this is a little outside of the dreams, but it goes along with it. I feel like he's always going after the heart. Always. And so it's like, you have people who are like alcoholics. How do I quit drinking? How do I do this? It's like, no, it's deeper than that. There's a heart issue, and he wants to make that whole. He's not concerned with the effects of it or the side effects of it. Yeah, the behaviors. So he's going for the heart. There's an issue in the heart. Once whole, all that stuff will just dissipate. Totally. And dissolve. So I think a lot of it is he's making us whole. Every time we have it, he gives us a dream. There's like always gain and progress, and we're becoming more whole. We're looking more like him each time he touches or sends us something or speaks to us. Always. It's because he wants us to come back to our original state. Yeah. And it's like that scripture in Colossians, like you were once alienated in your minds, like you were separate from him in your mind. Perception. Yeah. Yeah. It's in our perception. Right. And so of course he's going to come after that thing of like, yes, remember you're not separated. Yeah. Hey, remember that you're whole. Hey, remember who I really created you to be. Yeah. And so he will draw those pain points out. He'll draw the misconceptions. Yeah. One thing I wrote the other day, I just kind of journal random thoughts that I have that I was like, ooh, that's a good thought. Good. But I wrote, when the Lord is removing misconceptions, he's uncovering a true desire. Yeah. It's a true part of my destiny that was covered up by a lie. And because I used to be so afraid of him addressing issues of my heart. Yeah. Because I always felt like if it was a misconception that I was carrying, then I wasn't doing something good enough. Right. Right. I was very performance based. And so it was like, well, if he's addressing something like I'm not okay, like I'm not okay, I can't function, I can't be, like I need to make sure that I have my crap together before I can go. Yeah. And the Lord was like, no, that's not how I do things. Right. Go look at the disciples, right? Right. They walked with him constantly. He sent them out doing mad signs and wonders, and then are like, hey, by the way, God, can we call fire down on these folk? Yeah. Like they're manifesting. Can we murder a multitude of people, men, women, and children do you with mind? Fire? Yeah. And he's like, hey, that's not actually the spirit we're of. I love that. Remember. Yeah. And so he never punished them. No. He never set them out. That's an incredible contrast that Daniel brought up in his message too, was like, he never was like, we don't do that. We don't kill people. You're out of the band. Yeah. Leave. Yeah. It was like, you don't know what spirit you're of. And even that question is basically like, It's not saying like you're of the spirit of the devil right now. It's no, you don't understand like who you are.
Mm-hmm. You're still living from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
And that's not you. Yeah.
It's just not you.
But he never disqualified them. They were all for him. Like it was just about the yes in their heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what matters.
Yeah. And if you notice, the disciples never ran away.
Yeah.
Well, I should say,
yeah.
When the Lord addressed something in them, right?
Yeah.
Even Peter,
mm-hmm.
right? The Lord called him out and was like, hey, you're going to deny me. He's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I so identify with him so deep in my soul.
Yeah.
I really do feel like that sometimes. Like, Lord, I'll never deny you.
Uh-huh.
Also, I denied you. But my favorite thing is when Peter denied him, right?
Yeah.
Dude, if y'all want to, you can go read it in Luke 22. But it's so profound to me. This is how much the Lord is on our side.
Mm-hmm.
It says, but Peter said, man, I do not know what you were saying. Immediately while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed.
Yeah.
Right? So this is after the 3-time denial.
Right.
I'm pretty sure at some point it says that he was like cursing. He was like cursing somebody out.
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
He'd been walking with Jesus for 3 years and then it was like dropping an MF-er. You know?
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of. Anyways. But in 61, this is how pure the Lord is. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word of the Lord and how he had said, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. But the Lord turned and looked at him in the face of people mocking him,
mm-hmm.
like he was being tried.
Mm-hmm.
They had captured him. It was like the Lord took a moment to turn and look at his dude.
Yeah.
He's like, and it wasn't like, hey, Peter. I saw it like his captivating blue revelatory eyes, locking eyes with him, and Peter knowing he was right.
Yeah.
But almost like I passed the test because Satan had asked that he would sift him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he got sifted. And it was like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I see that thing as like,
mm-hmm.
Oh, like he was making a point to look for me.
Yeah.
Like, even if I'm going to deny him, he's still going to make eyes with me.
Yeah, and he's still for me. He had to have imparted that to him in that moment.
100, dude.
No doubt.
Dude, but then, Peter goes out and he weeps bitterly.
Right.
And to me, it's like he just purged the pain of rejection.
Yeah.
Because he had rejected the Lord, right?
Right.
And so he was purging that thing that he felt that mm-hmm. It was the very thing that he manifested he was purging.
Right.
Because sometimes we'll manifest on people with anger or whatever, mm-hmm. but I think that's the thing that's getting purged out of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the very, like, if you are manifesting something that is not of the Lord, an attitude or, mm-hmm. Anger or murder or, whatever that is, it's because the Lord is trying to draw it out. Right. It's trying to come out of you because it doesn't belong in your person.
Right.
And the only way that thing comes out is if it comes out.
Yeah.
It's like vomit.
Yeah.
The only way if there's something that's not right in your stomach, mm-hmm. you purge it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And then it's in the light. You can see it.
Yeah. And then, dude, that happened to Peter. And then Peter freaking rolls up in Acts 2, mm-hmm. dropping hammers.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, the Spirit's on everybody.
Yeah.
And he brought a powerful message.
Yeah.
That actually like awakened more people.
Right.
So it's like the Lord's not disappointed.
Yeah. And had he not conquered that rejection mm-hmm. or any of that, he wouldn't be doing that. But so he gained from that whole experience. And he knew the Lord's for him and with him and in him at that point. I think
that was a rock for him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When even though he manifested this thing, the Lord still looked at him and just shunk.
He confirmed with him.
Yeah, like, I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It just...
That's him.
Mm-hmm. But it's like when we interpret, right? I want to go all the way back to that because I think it's so important. Peter could have shamed himself, right? Mm-hmm. When he was even manifesting that.
Right.
And I think sometimes we can even interpret things through shame, or we can interpret things through really the filter of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
Am I good or am I bad?
Right.
And I think even sometimes our words and the things that the Lord is showing us, pictures and stuff, to learn his voice, if we have a filter there, we'll filter that. But the key is to lock eyes with Jesus.
Yes.
It's like, actually, shame was the fruit of eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
It was the thing that manifested. So even if it's like, and I think that it's growth in self-awareness. Like I don't think everybody's always aware that they're operating in shame.
Sure.
Or operating in fear.
Yeah. It just kind of happens, and
yeah. And sometimes it takes people out.
Get lost in the current of it.
Right. And then they don't realize it till later. But I think even that's growth.
It is, yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I one of my favorite things is you saying, you talking about dreams, or even what he says to you. It's not a dream. Anything that he says is like, what do I want this to mean? Then what does it mean? That's an immediate distinguish right there. And that's a good practice to have. I'd never thought of that till you brought it up.
I didn't either till a voice told me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to be honest.
No, well, that's incredible. That's an extremely good practice to have.
Because it can, like, you can start to sift.
Yeah.
Am I interpreting this thing from needing validation?
Yeah.
Or from pain, like I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected, or, X, Y, Z, or am I interpreting? You can see where the fruit of your heart, of the interpretation, comes from.
Yeah. Back to that question that you asked me, was there a dream that I ever interpreted it wrong and then found out later what it actually meant? And I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I will say, like, early on when I first started asking for dreams and I started to receive them, I took a lot of them literally. I think a lot of people take them literally to begin with. I had a dream, one of my earlier ones, and I drew a picture of it. But this guy that I worked with in the dream, and I saw this guy every day just in passing. He was like anyways. In the dream, I was in a gym at a church, at a long time ago church. And this guy was in the center of the gym, and there was a spotlight on him, and he had fallen down and snapped his leg. It broke. And I went over to him, and I touched his leg, and I healed it in the dream. And he got up and walked. I was like crying. Every time I heal somebody in the dreams, it is so incredibly real. So the next day, I wake up to go to work, and I'm just so excited. I'm like, he's going to fall down the stairs and break his leg today, and I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to heal his leg. And so when I saw that guy, it was almost like I was starstruck, because I'm like, I'm going to heal this guy today when he breaks his leg. And it didn't happen. And so I was like, well, maybe it'll happen tomorrow. And then as a process, but it's like, maybe that's not what that meant this go around. Maybe there are, instances where you do have a dream and it plays out in reality quite, specific. But I think that's part of the process of learning what is and what isn't and what things mean. But early on, I had a lot. I feel like a lot of people do early on, is just like interpreting it very quite literally. But yeah, I had one more that I had.
Why do you think that you interpreted it literally?
Because this was early on, Christian walk-wise.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here reading about the healings and what's available to us. And so that I'm seeing that as like, okay, you're just giving me heads up. And this is a good thing. I was prepared for it. And I do think that's why he's given me so many healing dreams, is to reinforce the belief of, like, when this happens, you're capable. And I know what it will feel like when it does happen. And I know when it has happened, but that's to where I'm at now. When he gives me those, a lot of it, there is healing, with people when you encounter them and things like that, and you impart truth to them or even pray for them. But I think that aspect of it is him reinforcing the healing, so that when it does happen, I believe it.
Yeah.
Fully. Anyways, another dream I had, and I'll tell you the dream, and it sounds horrible, but then I'll tell you how it felt. In this dream, my dad had this old truck. It was like one of his first trucks. I think he like, I don't know the details. He loved it. And it used to be at my grandparents' house, but it was like broken down and stuff. But in this dream, I was sitting in that truck back when it was drivable. I was just sitting in there. One of my grandmothers comes up to the window. I roll it down. She puts a revolver to my head and shoots me, blows my brains out. That's the dream.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I know it. I know it because, and it sounds horrible, but in the dream, and I was talking to somebody, I think it was Daniel, but he said, how did that make you feel?
I didn't think that was bad at all.
Well, good. That shows, yeah. Yeah, because I'm sitting in my dad's old truck. Yeah, and then my grandmother comes up. But whenever she shot me in the head, I had this, in the dream, I was just like, well, do it.
Yeah.
And she did it. And when she pulled that trigger, I felt this release. I was released from my body, released from my dad's truck, and it was like euphoric. And I was like, oh, this is freedom.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like that could be, interpreted a certain way, or like, oh no, my grandma is going to attack me today.
So give us the true interpretation of that.
Yeah, well, it was me being freed from old things that I'd inherited from a false, not false bloodline. Well, from the bloodline of Adam, so to speak, or my family, or things that didn't belong there that had been carried up through generations. And the fact that it was like in my dad's truck, but then also my grandmother from, yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah, the carnal mind was actually
carnal mind and
being blown up.
Yeah.
Which is like super encouraging.
Yeah. Oh, it was very encouraging. And I still remember that feeling of freedom. So I think about that whenever there are things that come up where I'm like, this doesn't belong here. I'm like, there is that freedom to be had.
So I think that's a beautiful point of like interpreting things is, what did it make you feel? Mm-hmm. I think like when you can identify, even when you're waking up, right?
Yeah.
And what did it make you feel? Mm-hmm. That's where you can start sifting things, right? So like, you knew that feeling was euphoric. Uh-huh. You knew that feeling was freedom. So that's the place you start.
Yeah.
And you start from that place to interpret, right? Now, if you'd had a dream of like mad rejection, right? And in the dream you felt really rejected and you woke up kind of heavy.
Yeah.
You start from that place of like, Lord, I actually feel really heavy about this.
Yeah.
If there's something in my heart that is still carrying pressure and carrying pain, will you uncover it? But I'm laying this thing down for you to come and speak into it.
He's allowing you to see it. He's
allowing you to see it, but it's also like, Lord, I know that you bring hope.
Yes.
You are the messenger of hope. So what lie needs to be replaced with truth?
Right.
And then you sit in that, right? And even if it's like people coming up to you, right? And I have a lot of like people interaction dreams.
Yeah. Kind of what it's all about.
Yeah. But in it, for a long, and I'll go through seasons, right? I had a very long season where I was dreaming every single night.
Yeah.
For months. But I was literally purging some of my deepest people wounds.
Right.
And I kind of got worn out by them, to be honest. I was like, good God, like, dude, how many more of these suckers do I have to have?
Yeah.
Because, and then the root came out of like, I feel like I haven't been able to conquer this thing. Mm-hmm. And so then I felt inadequate.
Yeah.
Because I kept having dreams about it.
Yeah.
And that's where I positioned myself with the Lord of like, okay, this is not hopeful.
Yeah.
So what hope are you trying to impart?
Yeah.
And he said, it was so sweet, but like, I'm chipping away.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are being chipped away. And it was like training me to actually release forgiveness over people and release the forgiveness and teaching me how to flow in that in reaction to where it's not like I harbor this thing and then I have to walk through forgiveness later. It was like I felt like I was being trained of like, this is how you forgive.
This is your reaction.
This is how you forgive.
Yeah.
This is how you forgive. Because they were legitimate, not nice things that happened to me in my past.
Yeah.
And they were coming back around in different points.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I was sitting and I was meditating, and the Lord, it was so sweet. I started really releasing forgiveness over people.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it like a nucleus. Have you ever seen like the nuclei, like when they spread out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I saw myself in the center of it. And as I blessed people, light shot out through them.
Mm.
And I felt like he said, every time you release forgiveness, it affects them even to this day.
It's redemptive.
And it's light bearing.
Yes.
And then I could start blessing them that even their life right now would become fruitful.
Yeah.
Even from the pain, you know, if something had been locked in time back then, it would be released.
You're releasing them from, yeah.
Yeah, because I recently learned this, that your body, so your central nervous system
Mm-hmm.
has no, like there's no timeline on it. If you get triggered on something,
Yeah.
it's as if it just happened to you again. So it reinforces.
Oh,
so like
interesting.
if you had a pain from your childhood, right?
Yeah.
And it was pretty traumatic,
Uh-huh.
and you didn't have the opportunity or the tools to walk through healing,
Yeah.
and you did the best you could, and most of the time it manifests in some kind of coping mechanism,
Yeah.
whether that's anger, alcohol, sex, drugs, rock and roll, like
Yeah.
whatever it is, and it's not dealt with 20 years down the road, if that same similar trigger happens,
Uh-huh.
it puts your body right back like 20 years
Yeah.
prior.
Yeah.
Your body still feels the same as if no time had
Mm-hmm.
lapsed.
Yeah.
And so I was seeing it like as I was giving forgiveness to people, it was almost like my body was catching up to today's time.
Yeah.
You know, I was like letting go of my 20-year-old, not even 20-year-old, like
Yeah.
10-year-old self,
Sure.
and being able to release people.
Yeah.
And I think the more that you walk through forgiveness,
Yeah.
the more your interpretation becomes clear.
Absolutely.
The more the screen of your mind becomes so
It's
pure.
clean and pure. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
And yeah, I think forgiveness is the biggest key.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of people who kind of did you dirty.
Anything, all of it.
Yeah. Like it is being a Christian,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
It is what we do
Yeah.
as Christians.
Absolutely.
We cover people, we love them,
Yeah.
we create value for them, which is creating, I think you just create time, like in the
Right.
present moment for them.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is one of the most powerful things you can hold and have
Mm-hmm.
and be, and it's actually a natural. That's who we were created to be, is
Totally.
forgiving. I love so much how, okay, like episode 1, I think I had to go back and listen to him talking about God speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if God just came up and told me something? But that would be cheap.
Yeah.
Instead,
one
he
of my
speaks
favorite things
in
you've
all these
said.
profound ways. But just like you said earlier, like having a dream and feeling rejection, he allows us to feel and experience these things and to go completely into them. Because how cheap would it be if he just took it away and you're just like, oh, I don't feel anymore. That's it. You wouldn't have
Mhm.
understanding in it
Yeah.
for other people even. So to feel and to go into the depths of these things with him, and for him to show you everything, and for him to like free you in this super tangible and profound and meaningful way that becomes a part of you and becomes a weapon of yours.
It's because
It's
then
so
you can give it
beautiful.
to other people.
Yes.
When you walk through something, you can then in return hand it off.
Yes. And I love that so much about him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's freeing you, making you whole, but you're gaining understanding and all this and the ability to free other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. And to impart that to other people.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I love that about him.
Okay. I wanted to talk about this too. It is. Yes.
Wait,
Okay, go.
do you have any dreams
Yeah, all of them.
that you... God, take it easy on
I'm
yourself.
just kidding. That was a joke. It was totally a joke.
Do you have any that stand out though?
Oh man. I have some, but I'm not gonna.
All of them.
I don't want to out the
Okay.
one that I do have.
Okay. Well,
It was a recent one.
yeah.
But yeah, I misinterpreted something,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't bad. It wasn't like I was going after somebody.
Yeah.
But it caused my person to be delivered because I misinterpreted something.
Yeah.
And when I misinterpreted it, and then I brought it into the light with people, and I was like, hey, I got to talk about this, because the way that I was interpreting it kind of produced fear in me.
Interesting.
Like, oh crap, like I'm going to have to do this thing that I was interpreting the dream to be. And anyways, somebody made it a very, very, like, made it lighthearted.
Yeah.
I was like, that's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I realized, and the thing that they said to me was like, well, if I was meeting something old, like that, or having to go back to something old, it's probably the Lord saying like, hey, you're going into an old way.
Yeah.
And that brought so much shame on me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't their intention or whatever, but I was already filtering something, right? Interpreting something through the lens of fear. So then to have somebody else say that, it was like, okay, there's more fear there.
Yeah.
And so I laid that thing before the Lord. I was like, okay, this thing and this thing are causing so much fear and anxiety. What's going on?
Yeah.
And it was so incredibly sweet. The Lord said, I'm taking you back to this old thing.
Yeah. I'm
not sending you back, but we did go back in your heart, so you can release forgiveness.
Release that, yeah.
And I did. I had to walk through a very specific, hard memory of that very place that I thought I was having to go back to,
right?
And release forgiveness over them,
right?
And to actually like replace that misconception with truth,
yeah.
And it was just like a breath of fresh air. Like if the Lord's taking you back somewhere. It's because there's healing to be had there.
Right.
Like if you're moving forward with the Lord, I'm going to say that. Like if you are actually like pursuing the Lord.
Yeah.
If you're intentionally like checking out and, living life of flesh, and you're having dreams about going back to things, you're probably going back to things.
Yeah.
Like the Lord's just letting you know, like, hey, you're kind of returning.
Yeah.
But if that's not your heart, like, and you're actually moving forward with the Lord.
Yeah.
And your heart is to like see him and know him and like cultivate relationship with him. There's nothing bad about that.
Yeah.
Even if you're going back to something. But anyways, all that to say, like the Lord really showed me that you're interpreting. If you interpret things through fear, he wants to show you a higher perspective.
Right.
And it's probably a pain that you've carried.
Right.
It's a pain that he wants you to be fully released from.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to carry any of that, but often we do.
Yeah.
We carry heavy pressures. We carry heavy loads that were never intended for us to carry.
Right.
And I think the religious grids of people often put it off like it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Or it's about America.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to keep going back to that.
Well, it's a good example.
It's just funny to me.
Easy to go to that.
But,
you just made me think of one, a dream.
Okay, hold on. I want to read the scripture real quick.
Yeah, do it.
And this was the thing that jumped out at me in Acts 2, 25 and 26, 27 and 28, right? So this is quoting David from Psalm 16. It says, "For David says concerning him, I foresaw the Lord always before my face, for he is at my right hand that I may not be shaken. Therefore my heart rejoiced and my tongue was glad. Moreover, my flesh will rest in hope. For you will not leave my soul in Hades, nor will you allow your Holy One to see corruption. You've made known to me the ways of life, and you will make me full of joy in your presence." And I loved that whole thing because if you're not resting in hope and you're not full of joy, there's a misconception there that the Lord wants to replace.
Swap out.
Yeah. And it's not like, oh, you're bad or whatever. It's just like you're carrying a load.
Yeah.
You're carrying a load that you can let go of.
Yeah.
Anyways, I love that scripture, so I wanted to read it.
Cool.
Just for people, but
yeah, for sure.
You can go back into what you were saying.
Well, you triggered this one with what you were talking about. So I just used to, every now and then one of these will pop up, but I will have a dream where someone close to me, could be a friend, family, anybody close to me, like betrays me or leaves
Mm-hmm.
me or does something, just stabs me in the back or something like that. And so that could be interpreted as, so if an individual in the dream, has gone and, done something horrible to just betray me or something, I could interpret that as that person's creeping around
With
or
skepticism.
that person is trying to harm me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could attack I could attack that person, be like, or just even treat them differently.
Yeah.
But in reality, what I discovered was that what the interpretation of that was, I had this fear of being
Betrayed. Mm-hmm.
or stabbed or whatever it was, which resulted in me, like, it wasn't the person that wasn't doing that, wasn't operating in that, but it just led me to be closer to the Lord. Like, okay, anybody can do anything. I'm good. If I'm with you, we're good. But I do remember having periods of time, even just asking him, like, why would they do that? Why are they doing this right now? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
is this person like trying to get me out of here? Or,
Totally.
But not so. And he's not gonna show you somebody's crap so that you can call them out on it.
Totally.
Or so that, he's not what do you call that? He's not petty like that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you may have dreams, right?
Yeah.
And
or intel, yeah.
And intel.
Sure.
But you have to interpret through the lens of hope.
Yeah.
You have to interpret.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use this example. It's not, it'll be all right. I had a dream about a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
And it was very specific. I sat on it, right? So I didn't force anything to happen. I sat with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was negative in nature.
Yeah.
It was pretty negative.
Sure.
And it was like a both and. It was manifesting something in my heart that I had towards this person.
Uh-huh.
Didn't know that I was carrying.
Yeah.
Because most of these things are not conscious.
Right.
Like, these are not, I know everybody. Like, I shouldn't say I know everybody, but like, most of the time, people are not malicious and consciously thinking whatever. It's just, it's subconscious things that we respond to.
Yeah.
So the Lord was dealing with this thing in my heart, and I sat with it because I knew part of it was for me.
Yeah.
And then the other part actually physically played out.
Mm-hmm.
It played out exactly how I had my dream.
Yeah.
And so then I knew also, this is also for her, this person.
Yeah.
And so then I started to actually intercede for her.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this thing play out, I was like, okay, there's something that the Lord really wants to release over her.
Yeah.
There's some hope there. So then I actually went after his perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a word for her.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very detailed word.
Yeah.
But it was so dripping of hope. And it was not like, well, the Lord is bringing you through the fire and you're going to be burned, but it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't anything like that. It was, I'm leading them into something so new and so beautiful.
Yeah.
And the shedding may be hard, or it may feel pain. But it may feel painful.
Right.
But there's so much that's coming through that I feel like the Lord is going to restore everything that you feel like has been lost. And anyway, so it was just like, and then I just sat with that. Yeah. And I didn't force it. And the Lord created space to when I heard it's go time. Yeah. So then I gave it to them, and it was profoundly timely. Yeah. And so the interpretation is like, you could just be like, well, it's only all about me, and it's only, the Lord is only always dealing with my heart. Yeah. But it's like, there's many things that he can do. Mm-hmm. But the Lord is so patient. Yeah. Nothing has to be fixed immediately. Yeah. I struggled with that for a long time. Mm-hmm. I thought that everything, like, if we're going to fix it, we're going to fix it now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, same. So, like, we're doing it. We're black and white. Not going back. Yeah. And I think part of that is pure, because my heart is so set for the Lord.
Definitely. It's like, let's do this.
Yeah. But then you have the other part where it's like you're actually uncomfortable in messes.
Mm-hmm.
And you think
Yeah.
that the mess is not okay.
Yeah.
But the Lord is totally okay with messes.
Right.
He's okay with people being a little sloppy.
Yeah.
Because he knows himself so well.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that love draws people out of messes.
Yeah.
And just because it's not currently looking that way,
Yeah.
if you look through the eyes of love and you look through the eyes of redemption and reconciliation, you know that that's where he's drawing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know that's where he's going.
Right.
So you can be okay in the mess and be okay with
Right.
the fact that it's not perfect in this
I
moment.
love that. I love that he operates and loves being in the mess. It made me think of the Pharisee party he was at
Yeah, dude.
and calling him out in front of everybody.
Literally go
in the
read
middle of it.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah. Yeah.
He always gets himself
But
in some...
when you said that, I just instantly connected like, oh, he does.
Yeah.
He enjoys messes, but that's where the real meat and understanding is.
Yes.
Really.
It is where the meat
That's
is.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just thinking about it is hilarious. Right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eye of the
And
storm.
kind of stirring it,
Uh-huh.
though. Like, he
Yeah.
kind of stirs it.
Yeah. Pushing buttons and
Yeah.
all of it.
He just...
Oh, yeah.
He sees these things that hold us down and hold us back
Right.
from really fully flowing in who we were created to be. And so
Yeah.
he's not afraid to hit the thing that's not us.
No.
That's the thing. If
Right.
the Lord is touching something and it's painful, it's because it was never you to begin with.
Yeah.
The Lord actually told me that. I had a vision at like 3 a.m., woke me up in the middle of the flipping night. I'm not going to lie, I was a little frustrated that I was not asleep. But he said, anything that's coming off of you was never you to begin with.
Yeah.
So
That's
you can
true.
let it go.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes we're afraid if we're interpreting something, right, and there's fear attached to it.
Yeah.
We're afraid that it's defining something about our person.
Yeah.
We're afraid that, like, our identity is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Because, our central nervous system, I'm going to get scientific for like 5 seconds, but our nervous system was created
Yeah.
to keep us safe.
Okay. Yeah.
It is like how that's all it knows.
Yeah.
How do I keep them safe? How do I keep them in a equilibrium state?
Oh, interesting.
Right? So that's why we have anxiety.
Yeah.
That's why we'll feel like the butterflies in our stomach. That's
Uh-huh.
why we'll feel fear,
Yeah.
honestly, is because it's signaling us that our central nervous system is perceiving something as not safe.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling fear, you can surrender that
Yeah.
and okay, Lord, I know that I'm actually safe with you.
Yeah.
So what does this look like?
Yeah.
What fear, why am I perceiving
Mhm.
threat?
Yeah.
Why am I perceiving danger?
Yeah. What filter's there that perceives
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
This is evidence of more.
mhm.
Evidence of more wholeness.
Yeah. Yeah. If we would
Incredible.
catch the fact that interpreting things is, how can I see more of the Lord?
Yeah.
I feel like it would unlock people.
Yeah.
What is he really trying to show me about his person?
Agreed. Well, one of the most things, and I can't wait to do this, is to the next dream I have, or the next even whatever he tells me, even if I don't understand it, whatever it is to write down what I want it to mean
Mhm.
and then what it actually means. That is an incredible little tool there.
Well, don't thank me. That was the Lord.
Yeah, don't thank me. Thank
God.
yeah.
Okay, well, that was
Start-
actually legit, but
Yeah. But yeah, everybody sees. Everybody is capable of seeing and hearing. But the interpretation it's almost our responsibility
to
do
grow in it.
To grow in it, yeah. And then the Lord will trust us with more as we become even more responsible with it. And we can apply it to our lives, change the world, redeem things, everything, and grow. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.